Hi everyone and welcome. This is the Desteni I Process Live Google Hangout. We do hangouts every week, 2 times a week. The one time it is these hangouts, which is the Desteni I Process Hangouts, and the other day it is the movie hangouts where we do movie reviews from a Destonian perspective. And it's actually on Friday this week, and it's going to be The Truman Show. So that's going to be quite interesting. Friday, that's tomorrow. So if you hurry, you have time to rewatch or watch The Truman Show to come and participate in that hangout. So that's going to be quite interesting. In today's hangout, we're going to talk about quite an interesting topic, and that is bringing it all back to self. And we're going to explain what that means. It is something that we often talk about within the Desteni Group and in the Desteni material, specifically in relation to projections and how you can bring projections back to yourself. So we'll share a lot of practical examples and what that actually means. As always, you're very welcome to ask questions. If you're on YouTube, you have to click the link in the lower left corner where it says be part of the conversation. That'll take you to the Google Plus page, and from there you can then ask your questions. So if you have any questions about projections or what it means to project, or if there is a point in your life or in your world that irritates you or that bothers you and you don't know how to bring that back to self, be sure to ask and we will give our perspectives on it. Yeah, that's it for me. So I'm going to introduce our guests today. We have Emmy with us from Finland. Hey, Emmy.
Hello. Good to be here.
Yeah, good to see you too. It's so cool that you're able to join us. We've scheduled this hangout for quite a while.
Yeah, we have.
And then we have Martin with us from Holland. Hey, Martin.
Hi, everyone.
Let me just pronounce your name properly. Martin, right?
Exactly.
Yes, good.
Cool.
Okay, so I want to start by asking you, let's just explain for the viewers, just briefly, we'll go into more detail as we walk the hangout, but what are projections and how do you bring them back to self? So maybe if you want to use like a practical example so that people can place it into context in their own lives.
Yeah, sure. Yes, that was several years ago. I had discovered that I could see other people, qualities of people, and I could like turn my perspective around 180 degrees and look into myself to find the same thing that I saw in the other person. So at one time I saw a person and he was like very jealous and he was like living that out. He had no restrictions on jealousy, he didn't keep it secret, he was it totally. And I saw that and I said to myself, well, that is something I cannot imagine that I have that thing in myself. So I tried to look into myself to see if I had that same point in myself. And it was rather impossible to look in my own direction because everything in myself said to me, it is over there, the nasty jealousy. It cannot be here, you see it over there. And so I really had to force myself to look in this direction and I didn't see it, and then I said to myself, well, it doesn't necessarily has to be exactly the same thing. So then I started more like a searching for something similar, and then I found it. And I found that I, in fact, was jealous of him for living out his jealousy like that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So you were looking at someone that was jealous, and then you were reacting to it within yourself, and then when you basically brought it back to yourself, you realized that you were jealous at his jealousy.
Yes, and I had never thought of myself as being a jealous person in that way. So that was quite a surprise about to learn that about myself. So, and that is a cool thing because it is in myself somewhere, but I'm not conscious of it. But it is there because I found it. So, and because it is not something that I know of, it plays a role that I don't see. So it has a role in my life, but I don't really notice it because I'm not aware of it. But now I became aware of my own jealousy, so I could stop myself in situations where that would normally play a role. So that's the way to use projection, to look into yourself and to change.
Very cool example. We can say that a projection is kind of like having a projector. You know, a projector that projects an image, like a movie on a wall or something.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like we create a projector inside ourselves, and then we take something of ourselves or something that we're in conflict with inside ourselves, and then we project it onto someone else.
Yeah.
So in this case, it was jealousy. They're jealous. I'm not like that. It's them that are it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that is a quality of myself as ego, that the negative sides of myself, I don't want to see them in me.
Yeah.
So and then I see them in other people because I want to make myself a better person than someone else. So the bad stuff in myself, I project it outward, and then I can fool myself by saying, I don't have that. Those people have that negative thing, and I'm better than them. And so that is the way to project negativity outside. And you, Emmy, you told us that you have an example of projecting positive qualities outside.
Yes, I do. I face positive projections a lot because I do performing arts. I've been on theater stage many times. I do music as well, so I perform a lot in front of an audience. And what I come across quite often is that people in the audience who see me perform, or me or somebody else, they have a tendency of, you know, idolizing the performers. Like, oh my God, you're so talented and you're so good, and I wish I was like you. And what people usually do there is that they limit themselves from ever becoming like me or like some of the performers, like that the talent that they see in that person and then magnify, they stop themselves from ever reaching towards that in their own lives. Yeah, so basically it's about, because like not wanting to face the fact that you lack a skill, but you know, still
Or for example, that they would really want to do that, but they have suppressed it and they were afraid of doing it. And so it's like, oh my gosh, she's so amazing, instead of seeing, hey, I could also be that. I could also do that. So when we project, whether it's positive or it's negative, it's aspects of ourselves, either, for example, either aspects like jealousy that we don't want to admit, or it could also be qualities and expressions that we haven't allowed ourselves to live. And then we separate ourselves from that. And it's interesting because it's like it does exist within us, so it has to go somewhere. You know, we cannot just completely stop, like it doesn't exist. So it's like that act of projecting it onto someone else, it's actually reflecting that separation. It's not in me, so it is in someone else. But because we deep down know that it is within us, or the potential is within us, that's why we then react to it when we see it in someone else. But let's talk a little bit more about what it means to bring it back to self. And let's use some practical examples to give it context. So if we, for example, say that I feel like someone is being really irritating to me. They're irritating me. How could I, in that example, how could I bring that back to myself?
Yeah, well, to detect that in yourself, you have to be very, very in the moment where it happens, because the irritation in myself happens just before I think it is someone else that irritates me. I noticed that when I entered the hall where I lived, and there was paper, newspapers and stuff was laying around. Someone didn't clean his his mail, his papers, and I got irritated by that sometimes. And after a while, I looked at the moment when that happened, and I saw that just before I say this person irritates me, I get an irritation because of seeing the litter. But I projected immediately on the person who left his newspapers there. so you need to be very aware of the moment in which it happens, and you really need to look just before the projection actually takes place, because that goes automatically. So you need to be more faster than that.
You can also look at the statement, they irritate me, as though they're actually crawling inside you and creating an experience of irritation within you, when obviously they don't actually do that. They're just messing with the newspapers. It doesn't have anything to do with you.
Yeah.
So how about a different example? Like I don't know if you've experienced this, Emmy, but for example, we can have this experience sometimes that people are sending negative energy towards us.
Yeah.
Or that their negative energy is affecting us. How could we bring such an experience back to self?
Yeah.
Well, that's a very good question. Like to think in terms of energy, first of all, is a very how to put it. It's because it's placing all the blame on somebody else, of your own experience, and because there's nobody else like crawling under my skin, or like and triggering points in me. It's myself who does that, and the negative energy aspect, it's kind of like it also has a lot to do with imagination, like seeing, like interpreting the words and gestures and messages and signals from other people as like arrows directed at you, you know, as stabs or points that people directly at you, like on purpose. And it might not even be that their intention is malicious. It's just that you're misinterpreting the whole situation. Or even if people do have bad intentions, it's myself who allows that to affect me. Like if like the fact that another person has ill intentions towards me doesn't have to affect who I am at all. Like it can affect how I position myself towards that person, how I can assist that person in their in whatever reasons they have to have ill intentions, but still, yeah.
Yeah, it's a good example. I was actually thinking about another example in relation to that, which would be the weather, and how some people, you know, where it's gray and it's raining, and then they're like, oh my God, the weather is so depressing. And then they start feeling really bad, but the weather is just gray and raining. It doesn't contain anything depressing in it at all.
Yeah,
The only reason why I would feel that the weather is like that is because it's coming from within me. So I'm projecting something within myself onto the weather, which actually already existed within me. And it's the same in the situation with, you know, they're sending negative energy towards me. I really agree with you that example is a little bit more complex, because it also has to do with imagination and maybe superstition.
Yeah.
But also that, you know, I cannot be affected by that unless it already existed within me equally.
Yeah, yeah.
Did you want to add anything to that, Martijn?
Yeah, that's what I found. I had such a person, and I suspected this person from sending negative energy, and I was puzzled, like how can I bring that back to self, because it is coming from this person to me, so nothing else is possible. So
But they're doing it.
that was so obvious. And so I had to really slow myself down and go back to till I found the point where I found the imagination of the energy happening, and where I found the evil in myself that I added to the imagination, which I then felt. But I created it myself. I felt my own evilness, and I projected that on the person. But it took quite some effort to detect it in myself, yes.
So that process of detecting and bringing it back to self, did you do that in writing?
No, this was before Destiny even. Yeah.
So you were more looking inside yourself.
Yes.
How about, let's look at some other examples. We wrote some examples down here. So for example, if I look at the news, this is probably something that a lot of people can relate to.
Yeah.
So looking at the news and becoming angry or becoming scared at what I see, maybe I'm seeing like a dictator or war. How could I bring what I see on the news back to myself? So that's a little bit of a different example.
Yes, sure.
Yeah, yeah, and it has like, because of course you can ask, like, well, how do I contribute to that? Like what I see in the news, how is the way I live my life, like causing this to happen or assisting this to happen or supporting dictatorships, or you know, because everything's interconnected. So it could, because I'm connected to everything that there is in this world, like everything that I do affects it on some level. And so when I see something in the news that I find like that I get angry out of, it's like it's as if I'm putting all the blame again on somebody else, and if refusing to look at how I'm actually a part of the cause of the issue.
Very cool, Emmy.
Yeah.
But if I then play the devil's advocate here, Martijn, and I say, but seriously, or to Emmy, seriously, that guy is a dictator, you know, I'm just a normal person. How can you possibly ask me to bring that back to myself and say that I am a part of that? So what would then be the next step? Because I think that all of us can relate to that experience that you were also saying, Martin, of going like, but that doesn't exist within me. That's impossible. So how could I start such a process of bringing it back to myself?
Yeah, I find a very simple step in this process is to say that everything that I feel is of me. Because if it wasn't of me, I wouldn't feel it. So when I hear about a dictator or a terrorist or a cruel person or anything like that sort, and I have a feeling about like how bad the person is, how evil the person is, that is my feeling. I feel it. So that is a very simple mechanism to get to self.
Yeah, and it's not the same as then saying that because it also exists within me, it's then okay. You know, that then it's just actually exactly like you were saying, Emmy, it then actually propels you or shows that I have a responsibility for this because it exists equally within me. Something that it can even be really cool and interesting to do is to ask oneself very directly, okay, but how am I a dictator in my own life?
Exactly.
And then maybe I realize, for example, that I'm being a dictator towards my children, or even towards parts of myself, where I'm actually doing the exact same as I'm seeing that guy doing on TV. And what that does is that it gives me an understanding of the psychological mechanisms that makes a dictator, because those exist equally within me. And
Exactly.
then something we were also talking about before the hangout that I told Martin, sorry, is that I found that the most nasty, evil aspects of myself that I really didn't want to face and admit, the only way that I faced them was through projection, through first seeing it in another, and then, pushing myself to look at, okay, but how does this exist within me? So I would say that projections are actually one of the most valuable tools that we have in this process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's also why we can say the world is a mirror. Huh? It reflects self back to self. So we can use the mirror aspect of the world.
Yeah, maybe we can come back to that a little bit later. We have a question from Rebecca.
Yeah.
She's asking, I had an object in my house that was broken, and I became irritated because in losing that object, I felt that something I had that I believed defined me was lost.
Oh, yeah.
I had to bring this back to myself. Has this happened to anyone? So you had an object that broke, and then you became irritated, and you felt that you had lost something of yourself within that object breaking. But you could relate to that.
Yeah, totally. Like I can remember situations with like toys, for example. Like as a child, I've had some toys that have been very important for me, and then one of my parents would throw them away. Like even like I've been an adult when that has happened, and they've thrown one of my old toys away, and I've been devastated because they've been very dear to me, and that they didn't ask for permission to do that, and there again I blame them for doing it. Like, why did you do that? They didn't ask for permission, and so somehow I've like I've seen how I've made the toys like a part of myself, of my identity or my personality, so that somehow I felt like a piece of me was lost when the toy was like physically gone. Yeah.
And could you bring it back to yourself? Could you give yourself back what you seemed was lost?
Maybe you can explain what you mean with that, Martin?
Okay, I can explain it with an example of losing a relationship. Because I lost a girlfriend. We split, and then I felt like I had lost a lot of myself, of my life, of who I was, until one moment I was laying in my bed, and without really conscious doing it, I moved my hand here on my chest, and I said, wait a second, that felt exactly like touching my girlfriend. So did I lose her? No, I didn't lose her. It was still here.
Cool.
Yeah, that's a very interesting point. And like with Emmy's example of the toy, there it's like, losing your childhood in a way, which shows that you've put that of yourself into that toy, but it's not, it's not like you really put yourself like a part of you into it. So it's all happening on a mental level, and then when that toy is thrown out, that's when you're confronted with that separation that you've made.
Exactly. Like for example, I've had Barbie dolls, and all the things I used to play with those Barbie dolls, and what I projected into the doll, like the aspects of people or relationships or life in general, what I saw in those specific toys like everything that I've put of myself into those were then like ripped from me, kind of. Yeah.
Interesting. But then
Yeah.
you actually have that cool opportunity to bring those aspects back to yourself.
Yeah.
'Cause, I mean, that's the whole point of why we're doing this, is that we're bringing, all the parts that we split ourselves into, bringing them back so we can again or become whole beings.
Yeah, this is an interesting point, Emmy. That the thing that you perceive is lost. The feeling that is bound to the toys. That's still here, because otherwise you wouldn't know what you lost.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
exactly.
that's a cool point.
So it is possible to bring it back and find it again. It is still here.
Yes.
That's a kind of a cool clue for anyone facing such points. The mind is tricky.
And I have another one here that is desire and projection, because when I was for some time without a girlfriend, I started to feeling desired for a girlfriend, and so from that I experienced missing. I miss experiences with a girlfriend, and then I brought it back to myself, and what I found was that just before the feeling of missing was manifested, just before that, I felt what I was going to feel like I missed. So in the first moment, it was here, and in the next moment, I said, I have no girlfriend, so I miss it.
Interesting.
I can relate to that. Like, I'm just, in a relationship context, like, I often notice that when you really enjoy doing some things with another person, and then you're about to do that on your own, but then you realize that there's something or someone is missing, and then you're like, then you just then I just forget myself in that longing, and that, oh, I wish he was here, and oh, this would be so much nicer if he was here, and it's not that much fun when he's not here, and and then I forget that it was actually enjoyable to begin with, even without the other person.
Yeah, I can relate to that. I've had that with my partner, because there are some things that I enjoy, like looking at animals. We have birds here outside our window, and I enjoy looking at them and being like, oh, what are they up to? And now they're building a nest. And then I go and I say to my partner, look at the birds. And he's like, okay, what, the birds? And then, because he doesn't respond, in that equal joy that I have for it, I feel like down, instead of simply enjoying myself with my own enjoyment. So then it becomes, because someone else won't share it with me or can't share it with me, it kind of diminishes my enjoyment. When, exactly as you're saying, I could have simply enjoyed myself.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And that's the point with the desire, that I project the thing that I desire, that I project it onto an imaginary girlfriend that should be here for me to experience it. But it is already here, otherwise I couldn't project it. So, yeah.
So I want to ask talk a little bit more about what the point is with bringing these projections back to self, and how we can benefit from it. Like, how has it supported you guys in your life? What has changed in your interaction with others, for example, or in yourself, since you started bringing projections back to yourself? Do you want to go first, Emmy?
Yeah, sure. Well, first of all, I've noticed that it is like all the time, it is more and more easy to actually build functioning relationships, like not just like romantic partnership type of relationships, but any type of relations with other people, like at work or school or just friends. You know, it's when because when I start taking responsibility of my own reactions and of my own projections, um, there's less conflict as well, or the conflict can be managed and solved when I am actually, you know, facing myself within the interaction with other people, because I'm bound to face reactions within me when I interact with other people, when I simply interact with the world around me. And so it is a great tool to help sort that all out, because there's a lot a lot of shit to sort out. So so yeah, it's helped me a lot in relationships. Yeah.
Very cool. How about you, Martijn?
Yeah, I have a cool example where I hear other people speak, for instance, or act in public, or act in groups in a position, like giving a lecture, or being part of a board, a member of a board, or stuff like that, in positions. And I used to look up to those people and think, oh well, they can do that, but that is very special. I cannot. I don't have that. Whereas bringing it back to self, it's now more like, oh, that's the way you handle that. Oh, that's the way you do that. Oh, that's the way you speak, or that's the way you behave, or
That you're learning from it.
yeah, that's how you manifest. And I because I see it there, I realize it is here. So I find it in myself too. And now I can express myself on ways I never had imagined. So
Yeah,
I can now play a role for other people that I didn't know I could. Yeah, that's it.
No, I was gonna say the same. I've also found that whereas before, like for example, in Emmy's example with being on stage and being someone that perform, if I would have wanted to do that and see a person that does that, I would go like, oh my gosh, she's so amazing. I wish I could do that. Or even become jealous and be like, oh my god, she's such a bitch. where in reality, I really want to be like her. But then I would just never do it. I would just say, oh, I wish that was me. And then that was it. But now I actually can say, aha, okay, do I really want to do that? Because sometimes you maybe even find out that you just enjoy that expression in another, and it's not like it would be practical, you know? Or I can say, that's a really cool quality. I would like to do that. How do I do that? And then even being able to go and saying, hey, Emmy, how do you do that? And then you can say, okay, but I started this, and then I took lessons, and then, aha, okay. So it's like it actually gives you the opportunity to really start expanding yourself in your life and your skills and your abilities exponentially, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah.
So just before we end here for today, I want to talk to you guys a little bit about how to practically bring points back to self. Also in terms of working the Desteni I Process Lite course, for example, or the blogs that you guys write. So can you just walk us through how one can utilize writing to walk such a point of bringing a projection back to self? Like, how would I go about it?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I've noticed that because I've been walking through the Desteni Lite, the I Process Lite course, and it provides very cool like writing like writing assignments that are structured very well. So that's a good way of learning how to structure your writing so that it supports your self-reflection. And because I started writing my blog before I started the course. So I was kind of learning the structure of writing on the go. But to me, writing is a good tool because everything is recorded. Like everything, because when you type down what you think and how you experience things, what you feel, and what you've done, it's all recorded as words, and it's kind of easier to see and to reflect upon when it's there visually for you to read and to look upon.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Well, when I don't see a point all at once, I start to write a self-forgiveness from the most obvious thing. So, for instance, when I perceive a person as very threatening, I would write, I forgive myself that I've accepted and allowed myself to see this person as a threat. When I do this and I decide to forgive myself this way of perceiving the person, then I open for myself the possibility to look a little deeper. And then what happens when I have written it down? Then I see the next level. And so then I write that out, and then I see the next level, and so I open up the point until I found it in myself. I find it in myself. And then that's the way to write and to bring back to self.
Very cool. I've also found that within doing that, and I've mentioned that in previous Hangouts, and also if you haven't heard about self-forgiveness before, we have done previous Hangouts about that. So I'll place a link in the description box, or you can go to our channel. Cool. But what I was going to say is that I've also found that I start by thinking that something is, like if I have a conflict with someone else, and I think I know what's going on, and then when I start writing and I start opening up in self-forgiveness, eventually it was something completely different that I would have never consciously thought. And sometimes it's so obvious and so simple that it's like, why didn't I see that? Yeah. And so that goes to show how layered our minds are and how like sophisticated we are at deceiving ourselves. Yeah. And then, did you want to add something, Emmy?
No, I'm.
And then something that I've also applied for myself in writing and in the Desteni I Process courses is to, if I have, and this is especially in conflicts with other people, or if I have very negative reactions to them, that they do this. You know, that's the basic. They're like that, and that's not okay. I don't write anything about they. I don't write, he did that, she did that, they said that to me, because I found out that when I do that, I actually fuel my own reaction. I actually write myself into that I'm right and they're wrong. Yeah. And then I kind of just go in circles. Like, I don't know if you guys have experienced it, but it's like the writing doesn't go anywhere, and at the end my reaction is just as strong as it was before, even stronger. So what I deliberately push myself to do is to only write about me and my experience. Yeah, cool. Sometimes for context, it's necessary to mention, like, okay, I had a conflict with my partner and he said this, you know, and now I can do that because I have practiced this for quite a while, but I focus only on writing on me, about me. And it doesn't matter whether what they did or say was acceptable or if it was unacceptable. Like, I don't even focus on like who was right and who was wrong, because I know that the very fact that I'm reacting shows me something about me, and until I've sorted that out, I won't be able to see the situation clearly. Because seeing the situation clearly would also mean understanding the situation from the other person's perspective, and not just be like they're wrong and I'm right. Yeah. And so what I found when I did this is that in the end I was actually able to see it from more angles. So that's something that I would suggest doing, is to take they and he and she out of the writings and only focus on my experience.
Yeah.
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 So, guys, do you have any other tips here before we finish for today? Anyone embarking on this journey of bringing it all back to self?
Yes, I had a conflict with a person once, and I accused this person of several things, and the person wrote it all down. It was a totally new experience that someone actually wrote down what I said, and then it became clear that everything that I acted out on the other person was in fact all about myself. Exactly what I accused this person of was what I was doing myself. So that was like, oh wow, I'm really wrong here. This has to stop.
Yeah, we cannot promise that it will be amazing, wonderful things that you'll discover about yourself every time.
No.
But it's all about being self-honest and taking responsibility. Also because, as you were saying in the beginning, Martijn, is that because if I don't recognize it within me, even though it exists within me, it still affects me. And so what that does, for example, is that we act out without even being directive or consciously aware of what we're doing. But this is a way to actually take responsibility so that when we act and when we speak, we do so in awareness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have also a big problem here, that is a judgment, where you see, for instance, a short video of animal abuse, and then you read the comments of the people, and the people react like, oh, we have to do that to the abuser too, we have to cut him open too, or something, or we have to cut his balls off, or we have to terrible things, a whole list of all the people reacting. So there you see that the negativity, the abuse of one person opens up a whole lot of points in the people who react. But now they use this reaction to judge the person that was the abuser in the first place.
Yeah, and then it just circles.
Yeah, this is a big problem.
Yeah.
It is even in our legal system, in our justice system, the element of revenge is legally in the justice system. So part of the punishment that is given to a person is revenge. So that is pretty crazy.
And maybe we can come back and do a hangout on another time on judgment, because that's also very important.
Yeah.
Emmy, do you have anything to add as like any tips or any suggestions that you would make for anyone?
Well, no, not really. Like, we've already said a lot.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
Okay, cool. This is actually the last hangout in our series about the Desteni I Process tools and principles. We'll obviously come back at another time. For example, we can do a hangout about judgment. And if you guys watching, if you have any suggestions, any topics that you would like us to do hangouts about, please send us an email. You can send it to me at annabriggsthompson@gmail.com. I'll put my email in the description. Or let us know through our Facebook page at DIP Lite. Next week, we're actually starting a new series, and maybe Martijn and Emmy wants to come and participate in one of those hangouts. It's going to be a series about the physical body. I'm actually really looking forward to it. Yes, and it's so cool. It can be anything about the physical body. Health. The first hangout, I think it's about gluten-free diet, if I have not forgotten. So it can be diets, makeup, exercise, extreme sports, you name it. We can do the hangout about it. So if you have some questions or if there's anything you're wondering about in relation to the physical body and how we would approach that from a Destonian perspective, let us know and we can actually take it up. like I said in the beginning of the Hangout, on Friday we're discussing the Truman Show from a Destonian perspective.
Yes.
So
and that's
join us.
One
What?
hour. Yeah? That's 1 hour later than this one, eh?
Yes, it's 1 hour later. And please don't forget to subscribe to our channel, and we will see you next week.
Okay.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye bye.